There have been so many videos on Amazon recently, and this all stems from the fact that you can no longer download the ebooks that you buy off the Amazon or Kindle store. So now if you go on and you buy a copy of It by Stephen King on ebook on Amazon and then load it up onto your Kindle, you can no longer pull that from your Kindle just as an ebook file, meaning that you can open it on other e-readers. You can still read it within the Kindle family of devices, so you can still read it on the Kindle app on your phone or on your iPad, but you can no longer pull it and then add it onto other e-readers. Now, Amazon did put out a statement to say this is to minimize pirating, so people couldn't just buy a book, download it, and then upload it elsewhere for other people to download it for free, which does make a lot of sense because pirating is an issue with ebooks in particular. But of course, there are a lot of complaints that people are no longer able to save and back up a lot of these ebooks, meaning that if Amazon does decide to pull down a listing of a book, that means that they can pull it from your Kindle. So now technically, if you buy an ebook off Amazon, you're buying the license to a Kindle ebook of that book, meaning you don't really own the ebook, but you do own a license to read that book on your Kindle devices. But again, that means that Amazon do have the ability to pull certain books for whatever reason in the future and just take it off your Kindle. That's kind of the situation and why a lot of people are talking about this right now. But I really wanted to zoom out a wee bit because there's a lot of discussions about ebooks. But I thought this is a really interesting, larger problem with sort of digital media moving into an all digital future for our entertainment media. This is something we have already seen in gaming, in music, in film and TV. It is really rare for someone to be listening to music through a CD or a vinyl now. Everybody seems to now be streaming music, and again, it's the exact same situation. You don't own the song even if you buy the album off of iTunes or Amazon Music, or if you're streaming it, again, you're paying for the subscription. Again, that all works in the exact same way. It's a licensing fee. You cannot pull the MP3 files from that and then back them up because you bought it anymore. Movies and TV show are the exact same. They've mainly moved into this subscription service basis as well, along with music. And gaming is kind of on the cusp. We are moving further and further away from having physical media as developers are pushing for this all digital future. And there's a ton of reasons why they want to go towards this all digital future from a business standpoint. There's a lot less logistics when you're just working on the digital element of the product that you're selling. You don't need to worry about factories and stock and things getting out early. However, it is a very similar situation. Books are coming slightly behind gaming on that. Even with gaming, we do see that the next generation of consoles like the PS5 and the Xbox, they have all digital versions that don't have any disc trays. So they have this expectation of you buying your games completely digitally. And there's so much talk that the next generation of consoles might not even have a disc tray, which is crazy to think. And these different mediums are having the exact same issues. We've already seen this with gaming and also music, but with film and TV as well, of pieces of entertainment being pulled from these platforms. And because you no longer own the files or the rights to keep that backed up anywhere and you don't have it physically, it means that piece of media can be gone forever, despite the fact that you paid for it. So a lot of people are really frustrated with Amazon doing this. However, this is the standard across the board, sadly. This is a larger issue of having just media as a whole moving into this all digital future. And also this idea of subscription services are becoming way, way more popular. However, ebooks have a very specific problem that these other platforms don't have to the same level. And that is Amazon's monopoly of the industry. With gaming, we have so many different marketplaces. We have PlayStation, we have Xbox, we have PC with Steam. We also have like Epic's Games Launcher, but you also have Nintendo. And while there are first-party games, as in developers that are owned by those platforms that are developing games, making them exclusive to their platforms, there are a ton, and mostly third-party games that are publishing on all of the different platforms. And in fact, Xbox is really making a big push in this recent generation to have some of their first-party titles, so the games developed under their own companies, on other platforms. Film and TV, Netflix were kind of the big pushers into this space, but we now have a ton of different subscription services and places for you to buy films and TV. And music is the exact same with different platforms like Spotify and Apple Music. Of course, there aren't a ton of different platforms, but there's more than one, whereas in the ebook space, Amazon with Kindle have completely dominated the market for ebooks. Now, Amazon have done a ton of good for the publishing industry too. They really paved the way with ebooks and really led the charge into this ebook future, which has been amazing for accessibility for a lot of text, being able to change the size, and also just being able to carry books about. It wasn't practical to carry a book like, or several books like this on holiday, but now you have a very accessible and light Kindle. That's not to mention the huge steps they have made for Indian self-pub authors. With KDP really pushing that, the indie space just wouldn't be what it is today without Amazon. They truly revolutionized the publishing industry in a lot of ways for the better. However, having one platform dominate an industry like this to a level of over 80% of all ebook sales is a negative thing for everyone. It means that readers are restricted to one platform and one set of devices. It means that the company doesn't really need to push and innovate and be really competitive with their prices of ebooks, as well as competitive rates for their creatives, in this case authors. There's just no pressure to keep them moving and progressing. And while there have been some other companies that have popped up and done some really amazing work, I'm a huge fan of what Campfire are doing. This isn't sponsored or anything, I do just like what Campfire do. This idea of having ebooks but with all this added extra world building and stuff on the side is such a unique and fun way of making it more interesting when you buy an ebook. You can add all this extra fun world building stuff, especially for fantasy readers. We love that kind of stuff, and having all the extra that the author can make is just a ton of fun. I also think the bookshop.org are doing some amazing work where you can opt in indie bookstores to get a certain percentage of the royalties for each ebook sold. Is a great way of supporting real shops that are on high streets while making just digital purchases. It will be such a sad day if it ever comes around to the fact that you struggle to find a bookshop. There's nothing better than walking through a bookshop and wandering about and searching the shelves and perhaps chatting with others, especially people who work there, who are very passionate about books. It does keep it to this very community aspect. However, the issues with some of these other platforms is they just don't have the readership or user base yet. And Amazon puts so many different exclusivity options onto some of your books when you are uploading there to especially KDP, which is Kindle Direct Publishing. And when they have such a large percent of the audience, if you don't opt into a lot of these exclusivity deals that they have set up, you're missing out on a huge percentage of readers across the world. On Amazon, you do have Kindle Unlimited, which is a subscription service, and if you want your book to be included in Kindle Unlimited, you need to be exclusive to Amazon. And because that's such a massive readership that are using Kindle Unlimited, and just the discoverability that you can get through having your book on that, it just makes it so difficult to not sign up for that exclusivity deal, which is what makes it so difficult for these other platforms to then build up their readership and their platform, which is just another reason why so many people are annoyed at the fact that they can no longer download and back up their ebook library and they can't move them and read them over on other e-readers, because already it was hard enough because a lot of books are exclusively on Amazon. So to shut that down to only being able to read them on Amazon devices is very frustrating for those who perhaps don't like Amazon for whatever reason, or they already have an e-reader of another kind. Which is why ebooks are in a particularly difficult situation, because with a lot of the other industries in the world, there are a couple different platforms that are vying for the customers. So that means platforms have an incentive to be competitive compared to other platforms. And as both an author and a reader, this is very frustrating. Having all the power given to one company is really stressful from a creative standpoint as well. I mean, we've already seen books be taken off of Kindle for whatever reason and that means that they're no longer being able to be sold to 80% of the ebook market, which is a huge percentage. So as a creative, giving all that power of 80% of your potential income, if you're doing this full time, to one company, eggs in baskets. Eggs in baskets. So the kind of clear solution here would be to take out the exclusivity deal from the Amazon contract. They're not going to do that. There's no reason for them to do that. And while that wouldn't solve the whole problem about ebooks being more licenses than direct copies of the ebook that you get to download, it would certainly minimize the risk of one platform pulling it from their listings because they disagreed with something or whatever issue that they have with that book. It means that there would have been other platforms that you could get said book on. But because they have such a large percentage of the market exclusively, that means if they pull something from their store, that means it could be gone forever. This is one of the reasons why I love to buy physical books, but I'm the exact same with DVDs and films, more so just with my favorites. But for example, BoJack Horseman is one of my favorite shows of all time, but it is exclusively on Netflix. So if they decide this completed show is no longer getting the viewership on a regular basis and they decide to pull the entire show, I'll never be able to watch it again. And that's really, really sad. So I did buy the first 2 or 3 seasons on Blu-ray. However, they only released the first 2 or 3 seasons on Blu-ray. It probably wasn't worth their time to make the other ones because less people are buying DVDs and Blu-rays nowadays. And geez, don't just start pirating books. I seen this as a response to the situation. Why would you? Yes, okay, you're maybe taking a minute profit from massive billion-dollar companies like Amazon, but the people who you're really affecting by pirating is the creative on the other end that were only earning a very small royalty in the first place. And yes, of course, I am biased. I have a book out, several books out. However, even just from a moral standpoint, I want the people who are behind the work that I'm loving to get the money. So please do not take away from this that pirating is the answer, because it most certainly is not. And one of the reasons why I think we will not see massive change in the near future is because a mass percentage of the audience aren't aware of this issue. If you're watching this video, you're aware of the online book communities, you've seen other videos and you're kind of more involved in this type of conversation. However, if we zoom out to the general audience who are just, they own a Kindle because they got it for Christmas one year, and every time they go on a summer holiday, they decide to download a couple books that they want to read. They're not going to know about this entire situation. And this much wider, much larger percentage of readers being this general audience who don't know about the situation is why so many creatives are going exclusively on Amazon, because that's where they are, and it's going to be extremely hard for them to even be aware of a lot of the other options that they have. I don't want this video to be a don't ever buy books on Amazon video, because so many books are exclusively on Amazon, and also again because Amazon holds so much of that readership and the casual audience. By not buying books there, you can affect the sales ranking, which affects discoverability to the largest readership in the entire world. I'm not saying here that the pressure then falls onto the reader to support the author in the best way that they physically can, or that Amazon even is the best way to support an author. I'm definitely not saying that is the case. I just want to make it very, very clear that despite a lot of the negative practices for the publishing industry, in my opinion, if you do end up buying it on Amazon just because it's the only place you can get something, then you shouldn't feel bad about that being the case. As I said, Amazon having the monopoly is a negative thing for the publishing industry. It's not good. In the end, it's up to the readers and where you feel comfortable buying your books, because there are pros and cons to all the different marketplaces, as well as all the different formats. If you prefer ebook or audiobook or physical copies, there's pros and cons to all of them. However, that doesn't mean that you have to buy on Amazon. There are a ton of other options, and a lot of the time, if the ebook is still exclusively to Amazon, physical copies might be available on other sites instead. I just wanted to make this video because it's been something I've been thinking a lot about recently, especially with this new development of not being able to pull your ebooks. And I've seen a lot of discussion about it, but I've not seen many people look at it from a larger concept of other media platforms and mediums as well, because it's a lot more common than people think. And I just kind of wanted to outline the pros and cons of the situation, because I don't want it to be entirely a let's not do that or let's do that. I want you to see both sides, and then you can decide what you want to do and where you want to pick your books up from. It's not a black and white situation. There's a lot of grey area in this. I could talk about this for hours, so I most certainly didn't cover everything in this situation. I do highly recommend checking out Daniel's video, but also Jared's video, or should I say videos. I didn't even touch on royalty rates or audiobooks, which is a whole can of worms onto itself. But thank you very much for watching. I'm not gonna say we're living in a dystopia, but